I should have never said yes to meeting her family. They live deep in the Utah desert. No cell signal, no neighbors, no help. The first rule they gave me was, don't look out the window after midnight. The second was, don't answer if you hear my fiancée's voice outside. But last night, I heard her screaming, and she was already asleep next to me. Asterisk, the dirt road stretched endlessly through the sun-scorched heart of rural Utah, winding like a snake with nowhere to go. There were no signs, no cars, just that brittle desert silence you don't hear anymore. Almost holy in its stillness, yet haunting in its emptiness that I kept glancing at my GPS. But it had stopped updating miles ago. My phone read, no service. Natalie, my fiancée, sat beside me, humming an off-tune melody as if she wasn't taking us deeper into what felt like the edge of the world. Her family had invited me to their land for a blessing, some kind of ancient tribal ritual. She'd never told me much about her background, just that they were old school and didn't trust outsiders easily. But now that we were hours from civilization and the sun dipped low behind red rock cliffs, something inside me started to itch. Not physically, spiritually. We're almost there, Natalie said, her voice soft but unreadable. I nodded, gripping the wheel tighter. How much further? Just past the watcher tree. The what? She just smiled, eyes locked on the distant horizon. 10 minutes later, we passed it. It was a towering dead juniper in the middle of the road, gnarled limbs stretching like broken fingers into the sky. Someone, or something, had nailed dozens of animal skulls to it. Birds, coyotes, even a deer, all of them bleached and eyeless. That's when I saw the first one. A figure standing in the bushes to our right. Naked, pale, its limbs too long, and its mouth too wide. Watching, still as stone. Did you see? Don't look at them, Natalie whispered quickly. That's rule 1. Don't ever acknowledge the lookers. The moment passed. I blinked, and the thing was gone, but I knew it hadn't been in my head. The house her family's homestead wasn't a house. It was a compound. 3 cabins in a crescent shape, an old barn in the back, and a well in the center. All of it circled by a 10-foot wall made of raw timber. No electricity, no running water. They don't believe in modern things, Natalie said as we got out. It's safer that way. Safer from what? She just stared at me. From them. The door to the main cabin creaked open, and her father stepped out. A tall man. Wrinkled, shirtless, with eyes so black they looked wet. He didn't smile. Neither did the others. I counted 8 people. All blood relatives. None said a word as they watched me like I was dinner. Finally, the father spoke. You brought him, he said. He needs to know the rules. They took me inside. The air smelled like burnt sage, rust, and something sour. Animal skins lined the walls. Bone charms hung from the ceiling. Her uncle, a hunched, narrow-eyed man, tossed me a rolled piece of hide. Read this out loud, he said. I did. Scroll the 7 rules to follow on the land. Never leave the house after sunset. No matter what you hear. If you hear someone knocking, don't answer unless they say your full name. Avoid mirrors at night. They reflect the truth. If Natalie leaves the cabin after dark, do not follow her, even if she screams. If something calls your name from the woods, it's lying. If you see someone with Natalie's face, but she's with you, don't speak. Just run. On the 3rd night, if they offer you the blood bowl, you must drink. If you refuse, they'll know you're not ready. What happens if I break a rule? I asked. Natalie's mother smiled for the first time. You don't get a second night. First night, the screaming, I tried to sleep. I really did. But something kept moving outside the cabin. Pacing, scratching, moaning. At exactly 2:13 a.m., I heard Natalie's voice outside the window. Let me in, babe. It's me. It's cold, but Natalie was right next to me. I turned, and her eyes were open. She whispered, don't answer it. That's not me. I froze. My blood ran cold. Outside, the voice began to laugh. Second night. The false face. They made me help slaughter a goat in the morning. They smeared its blood on the walls, chanting words I didn't understand. The women wore veils. The men stared at me as they muttered in unison. He needs to see, Natalie's grandmother said. That night, I went to the well for water against Natalie's warnings. I looked down. The bottom of the well was my face, staring up at me, smiling. When I turned, someone was standing behind me. Natalie. Or so I thought. until I saw her feet weren't touching the ground. I saw them change. I watched Natalie's uncle shed his skin like a coat. I saw his arms stretch into something beast-like, part deer, part man, all wrong. On the third night, they handed me a bowl filled with something dark and steaming. I drank, and then I remembered. I'm not who I thought I was, and Natalie isn't who I loved. Asterisk, if you drink the blood, you belong to them. If you run, you'll only die tired. Unknown inscription carved into the wall of the barn. The bowl was warm in my hands, almost pulsating. Thick, dark crimson liquid swirled inside, steam, rising in lazy spirals. The smell was metallic and earthy, like copper and rot. Everyone around me watched in silence. No blinking, no breathing, just waiting. Natalie stood behind me, her hands on my shoulders, her fingers cold as ice. Her father, mother, uncle, 2 cousins, and the old woman with cataract-filled eyes sat in a circle, lit only by the fire in the center of the barn. Above them, strange shapes dangled from the rafters, animal skins stretched over bone frames, stitched into almost human forms. "Drink," her father said, "or leave." "You don't want to leave," Natalie whispered. "Not tonight." My fingers trembled as I lifted the bowl to my lips. This is insane, I thought. I should run. I should scream. I should, but I drank 0.1 gulp. 2. It was thicker than blood. Hot, spiced, alive, like swallowing liquid heartbeat. My throat burned as it went down. My vision swam. And then everything went black. The memory that wasn't mine when I woke. I wasn't in the barn anymore. I was somewhere else. A desert. Red sands. The moon hanging like a scab in the sky. All around me were hundreds of figures standing naked in the dark. They weren't human. Not anymore. Some had the heads of wolves. Others, antlers. One had 3 faces stitched together crudely. Another dragged a sack behind him, the sack moving like something was alive inside it. They stared at me, their eyes like burning holes. And then, in one awful, synchronized movement, they bowed, and I heard a voice in my head, deep and hollow. "You are the blood of our blood. Your skin remembers. Let it awaken." Back in the barn, I jolted upright, vomiting black sludge all over the wooden floor. "He saw," someone said. "He remembers." I looked down at my arms. Marks were appearing. Faint symbols, etched into my skin like tattoos forming under the surface. My chest felt like it was splitting from the inside. "What the hell did you do to me?" I gasped. Natalie knelt beside me, brushing my hair from my forehead. "You had to see," she said. "You had to drink it to unlock what's inside you. You're one of us. Not by blood, but by spirit." I crawled backward, knocking over a bowl of smoldering sage. "I'm not one of you. You are now her," Father said, "the moment you came back." The second rule breaks that night. I locked myself in the guest cabin. I pushed the dresser against the door, boarded the windows. The bowl's taste still coated my mouth. Every shadow twisted. Every creak sounded like bones cracking. 3:12 a.m. Someone knocked on the door. Tap, tap, tap. "Babe, it's me." I'm scared. Natalie's voice, exactly like before, but she wasn't outside. She was in the room, fast asleep on the bed. The voice outside began whispering my name. Over and over. "Eli, Eli, open the door, baby. I'm hurt." I clamped my hands over my ears. The doorknob rattled. I whispered the rules to myself like a prayer. "Don't leave after sunset. Don't open the door unless they say your full name." But she was saying my name. Over and over. My full name. Exactly right. I panicked. My instincts told me no. I didn't open it. Instead, I looked out the peephole. A figure stood there, naked, twisted. Its head was Natalie's face, but the body was not human. The moment I looked, it turned and smiled at me. Its mouth stretched too far. Its arms cracked backward, and then it dropped to all fours and scuttled away into the darkness like a spider. I didn't sleep. A new rule emerges in the morning. The old woman, Natalie's grandmother, beckoned me to her cabin. It was darker than the others. The walls lined with bones strung together with sinew. She handed me a piece of hide, like the one I read before. It had only one word etched into it. Dig. "What am I digging for?" I asked. "Your memory," she said. "There's something you buried here long ago." I thought she was crazy, until I started having dreams, visions of myself as a child, running through the very woods behind the cabins, laughing, a woman calling my name, Eli, stay away from the stone circle. Why? I asked in the dream. Because that's where the skin begins to remember. I woke up gasping. The circle of bones that evening, as dusk fell and the air grew cold, I snuck out. Natalie begged me not to. Please, Eli. There are things in those woods that wear your face and speak your voice. They'll try to confuse you, trick you into becoming what they are. Then tell me the truth. I said. What am I? She just cried. You're not ready to hear it yet. So I went. The forest was silent, too silent. The kind of silence where the trees don't move and the air doesn't breathe. That I walked for what felt like hours until I found it, that a perfect circle of bones, half buried in the dirt, animal and human, arranged like a ritual. The eye in the center was a small mound. I began digging with my hands, faster, desperate. Then I hit something. Leather. I pulled it out. It was an old child's jacket. Mine. Inside the pocket was a note, written in my own childlike handwriting. Don't forget who you are. Don't trust Natalie. She's one of them now. They lied to me. I wasn't just visiting Natalie's family. I had been here before. I had lived here as a child, raised by these things before I escaped. And now they wanted me back, not because they loved me, but because they needed my skin. You cannot run from what is inside your blood. You cannot hide from the thing you used to be. Inscription found behind the false wall in the cellar of the cabin. The jacket lay across my lap, its fabric stiff with age and dust. My child-sized handwriting had faded, but it was still readable. The words haunted me like an echo from a forgotten past. Don't trust Natalie. She's one of them now. The forest around me had begun to shift, not physically, but in the feeling. A weight, like something breathing over my shoulder. The trees leaned in. The dirt no longer felt dry. It pulsed. I stood up, clutching the jacket to my chest, and turned back toward the compound. And that's when I saw them. Figures. Pale. Tall. Crawling along the tree trunks like insects, their joints bending backward, their eyes glassy and hollow. They watched me. Grinning. One of them wore my face. The second truth. I ran. Back to the compound. Back over broken roots and red soil. I burst into the main cabin, breathless, the jacket still clutched in my fist. Natalie was there, sitting at the table, but she didn't look surprised to see me. She looked sad. You weren't supposed to. Remember, she said softly. What the hell is this, Natalie? I found the jacket. I wrote that note. Me. I lived here. I was a kid. How is that possible? She stood slowly, her eyes glistening with something between guilt and hunger. You were never supposed to leave, she whispered. You were born under the Watcher Moon. You were chosen, Eli. Chosen for what? To become what we are. What you were always meant to be. She walked to the fireplace and pulled a hidden latch. A groaning sound came from beneath the rug. She rolled it aside to reveal a trapdoor. If you want answers, go down. I hesitated. Every nerve in my body told me not to, but I needed to know. So I went down. The cellar. It wasn't a cellar. Not really. It was a catacomb of roots and mud and bone. The walls were slick, inscribed with symbols that moved when I looked too long. Bones hung from strings. Skulls were embedded in the clay walls, their eye sockets staring at the end of the tunnel. There was a door made from human rib cages, and behind it, a room filled with skins, tanned, dried, folded like clothes. Some were human, others weren't. Natalie followed me in, holding a torch. These are our ancestors, she said. We wear them to remember, to borrow their strength. I stepped back. This is sick. It's tradition, she said. It's survival. Why was I taken? You weren't taken, she replied. You were born here. One of us. But when your birth mother, Mara, saw what you were being turned into, she ran. She tried to hide you. She left you at the steps of a shelter in Colorado. She thought she could break the bond. What bond? Natalie reached toward one of the skins. A long, cracked pelt that shimmered with a faint, oily sheen. The bond of the Skinwalker. Once awakened, it can't be undone. Your blood remembers the rituals, the sounds, the smells. You drank the blood. You're becoming. I stepped back into the shadows, heart racing. No, I whispered. I'm not one of you. I won't be. The blood right. I tried to escape. That night, I ran and I made it to the outer wall of the compound, scaled it, and disappeared into the desert. The cold bit at my skin. My mind was screaming, but I never got far, because the desert wasn't normal. It shifted, twisted. Everywhere I turned, I ended up back at the compound. Every time. The land itself held me, and on the third attempt, I collapsed beside the watcher tree. The skulls above me began to whisper, not in English, not in any language I'd ever heard, but my ears understood it. The same way a baby recognizes its mother's hum. That's when I saw him, that a figure draped in black skin, face blank, and no mouth. Only a hole where the heart should be. It reached toward me, long fingers outstretched, and said, in my voice, "Come home, Eli. You are wearing the wrong skin." Natalie's final confession. When I woke, I was in the barn again, tied to a chair. Natalie was there, sobbing. "I didn't want this," she said. "I wanted to stop it. I loved you." "Then untie me. We can leave." She shook her head slowly. "It doesn't work like that. You can't leave the skin. Once it starts growing inside, it needs to come out." "What are you saying?" "You're shedding, Eli." I looked down. My skin was peeling. My arms looked raw. New skin, darker and veined, was pushing through. Natalie placed a mirror in front of me, and I saw myself, but not me. My eyes were black. My mouth was stretching. I was growing taller, thinner. My voice was deeper when I screamed. "You're becoming the vessel," she whispered. "They've waited years for you." The skin ceremony. The family gathered around me. Naked, painted, in ash and blood, they began to chant, low at first, then louder, in sync. The air grew heavy. A drum beat began. My pulse matched it. "No," I cried. "You can't do this to me. You already did it to yourself," her father growled. "When you came back, when you drank, when you remembered." They brought forth the skin. A large hide, gray, pulsing slightly. Eyes stitched shut, a mouth sewn closed. "This was your uncle," the old woman said. "Now it will be you." They began to wrap it around me. I screamed, thrashed, but I was losing strength. The skin clung to me. It melted into mine. My mind began to fray. Memories that weren't mine flooded in. I saw wars, hunts, feasts, rituals. I saw my hands tearing flesh. I saw Natalie being born from the same bloodline as mine. They weren't my fiancée. They were my keepers. But then, the true memory amid the chaos, a voice, faint, from deep within. "Eli, remember who you are. You are not theirs. You are mine." I saw a face. My real mother, Mara, holding me, running through the desert, whispering prayers, carving symbols into my back to protect me. I reached inward, clawed at the skin, trying to take over, screamed into my own soul, and I tore it off, piece by piece. I screamed so loud it shattered the drum beat. The barn burst into flame. I escaped, but something came with me. The skin no longer wraps my body, but it whispers to me from within. I see my face in reflections that don't match what others see. And Natalie, she's still out there, waiting, watching. I think I was never meant to leave, and I think they're coming back to finish what they started. Asterisk, if you see your reflection, smile when you do not. You are no longer looking into a mirror. You are looking at the other you. Final rule, etched into the underside of the Watcher Tree prologue. The one who returned and made it back to civilization at least. That's what I told myself. A week later, I was in a hospital bed in Moab, dehydrated and half delirious. They said I was found wandering naked near the freeway, whispering in a language no one understood. It took me 3 days to remember my own name. But there was something they couldn't explain. The black veins crawling up my chest, the fever dreams, or why every animal I came near refused to approach me. Dogs growled. Birds flew off. Even shadows seemed to linger longer when I passed. I told the doctors I'd been kidnapped by a cult. They didn't believe me, but I wasn't lying. And that was before I saw the mirror. The reflection, it started slow today. Twitch in the corner of my vision. My own face, blinking too late. Smiling when I wasn't. I stared at the hospital mirror for hours, watching. Then one day, it moved on its own, just a fraction of a second out of sync, but enough to confirm it. My reflection wasn't me anymore. It was wearing me. Natalie's message. I found it in my phone. A voice memo. Timestamped 3 nights after I escaped. I didn't record it, but it was me speaking. "You think you got away, but you didn't. You tore off the skin, but it left something behind." And then Natalie's voice came through. "We were born into this, Eli. The skin is not a curse. It's a calling. You're fighting what you are, but soon, you'll remember the last truth. You never left us. You are us. The final rule after being discharged, I went off-grid. Bought a burner phone. Got a motel room out in Green River. Middle of nowhere that I thought I could hide. But the rules followed me. Late one night, I heard scratching on the window. The same 3 taps. The same voice pretending to be Natalie. Eli, let me in, it's so cold. I covered my ears. Smashed the mirror. Burned sage. Nothing helped that I thought about Rule 4 again. If Natalie leaves the cabin after dark, do not follow her. Even if she screams. Now it made sense. She had left herself behind. What walked the land wasn't Natalie. It was her skin, and now mine was. Doing the same. The death of memory, I started writing everything down. Journaling obsessively. Trying to hold on to my identity before it slipped away. But the memories kept shifting that I'd wake up and not recognize my handwriting. Pages filled themselves with symbols. Old Navajo glyphs I never learned. But now understood. Point one night, I found a page that I hadn't written. Burn the jacket. Bury the skin. Carve the 7th mark. And never look into the eyes of your reflection. Under a waning moon. There was blood smeared along the bottom. Not ink. Not mine. The final hunt, they came for me the 7th night that I heard them outside my motel room. Crawling on the walls. Clawing the roof. Dozens of them. Their voices all sounded like me. Some sobbed. Others begged. One laughed like a child. And then, one voice whispered, "You never should have drank the bowl." I barricaded the door. Lit candles. Drew the circle of ash like the grandmother once taught me. I sat inside it. Holding a knife. Waiting. And then the mirror across the room shattered. But it didn't break into shards. It peeled open, like a mouth. And he stepped out. The other, he looked like me. But wrong. His skin shimmered like oiled leather. His fingers ended in black claws. His eyes were hollow, but weeping blood. "You tried to escape," he said. "But you brought me with you." "You're not real," I said. He smiled. "Then why do you dream in my memories?" He lunged. I stabbed. But knives don't work on something born inside you. We crashed through the window. Rolled into the desert. Fought beneath the pale stars. And as he pinned me, his mouth opened wider than any human mouth could. He screamed the ancient word of shedding. Shin and HGUH. The fire inside the scream triggered something deep in me. The symbols on my arms lit up. My chest burned. My spine arched. And I felt something pull free. The true me. The one I had buried as a child. The IT rose like a serpent of smoke from my mouth. Wrapped around me. Then entered my shadow. The moment it merged, I became what they feared. Not a skinwalker. Something older. The Watcher. The return. I went back. Back to the compound. Back to the red cliffs and the cursed well. But I didn't go alone. I carried all of them inside me now. Natalie was waiting. Her face pale. Tears down her cheeks. "You remember now?" she said. "Yes," I replied. "And I remember why I left." "You can't kill what you are." "I'm not here to kill." "Then why did you come back?" I smiled. "To bury the last skin." The ending that I burned the compound to the ground. Every cabin. Every skin. Every rule etched into the trees. But some ashes don't stay buried. Because late at night, when I dream, I still see Natalie standing at the edge of my bed. Not older. Not angry. Just waiting. Her eyes empty. Her smile too wide. And sometimes, just sometimes, I wake up and the mirror is already fogged. Even though I haven't stepped into the bathroom. I wipe it clean and see her face instead of mine. She whispers, "The skin never forgets." Warning: final rules for those who escape: never trust the voice that sounds like your own. Never follow someone who wears a face you love. Never sleep where mirrors face your bed. If you hear tapping at the window, don't respond. The skin you were born with remembers everything. If you burn the compound, burn the ashes twice. And never, ever drink from the blood bowl.